I have a Pokemon opinion that I think the vast majority of people are gonna completely disagree with. In fact, it's probably so bad that once this video goes up, the entire country of France are gonna consider bringing back the guillotine specifically for me.
You know what? I'm about to say it.
I think shiny Pokemon has become completely worthless. Before I get into this, I asked you guys a few days ago, and it turns out over 70% of people do disagree with me on this, which is absolutely okay. This is a video about pretty specific subjective opinions, and freedom of speech would be absolutely useless if everyone agreed with one another. So if you completely disagree with what I'm saying in this video, that's alright. You can yell at me in the comments. Another thing that I want to make absolutely clear right off the bat is that this video is in no way targeting or badmouthing those who enjoy shinies or shiny hunting. There are a ton of dedicated shiny hunters out there who are simply following and doing something that they are passionate about. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, I encourage it. Please enjoy it. Now, let's get into why I think shiny Pokemon has become completely worthless. First of all, what is a shiny Pokemon? In very short and basic terms, a shiny Pokemon is a regular Pokemon with a different color palette. These Pokemon used to be incredibly rare. They were introduced in Generation 2 and had a 1 in 8,192 chance of appearing every time you encounter a Pokemon. And they give a nice little sparkle effect when encountered. Before the release of Scarlet and Violet, I had only ever found 2 full odds shinies. First one was a shiny Zubat in Pokemon Crystal, which I encountered before I got Pokeballs, which in turn gave me radical thoughts to commit war crimes. The second one was a shiny female Snorunt I found in Pokemon Shield, which I simply put in a box and named my ex because she's a cold ass bitch. The odds of finding a shiny Pokemon would stay the same from Generation 2's Gold, Silver, and Crystal, until and including Generation 5's Black and White 2. In Generation 6's X and Y, the odds of shiny Pokemon appearing was changed to 1 in 4,096, which is the same odds that we have in the mainline series games today. And judging by the title of the video and what I've already said, you might expect me to start ranting already. But no, the change from 1 in 8,000 to 1 in 4,000 is actually something I view as a healthy change. It was most certainly a good thing. Sure, the odds of finding these super rare, differently colored Pokemon became twice as easy. Though we went from incredibly unlikely odds to more likely odds, it made more people actually start shiny hunting. I'm not saying that people weren't shiny hunting before X and Y, but what I'm saying is that the Generation 6 games really was the start of the peak of shiny hunting, at least from my experience. There were also brand new mechanics put in place for people to shiny hunt, most commonly known as shiny hunting methods. In Generation 6, we saw the introduction of chain fishing, horde hunting, friend safaris, and deck snap hunting. Alongside other methods we had previously, like Masuda method, the dreaded soft resetting, radar chaining, which was actually introduced in Generation 4. I don't actually have a major problem with shiny hunting methods as a whole, mainly because you still have to work for it, though I don't agree with the odds a lot of the time. Like how Dynamax Adventures in Sword and Shield has a 1 in 100 odds of shiny Pokemon with the shiny charm, including the legendary Pokemon, which I will never agree with. A legendary Pokemon should, in my opinion, never have 1 to 100 odds. But you still have to put in the effort of playing the entire thing, with 10 to 15 minutes between encounters, so you still have to work for it. But that doesn't change the fact that I believe it's become way too easy to obtain shiny Pokemon. Of course, I can't make this video without talking about genning. I have an older video where I talk about my opinion on genning itself, and it's still pretty much the same. I don't care if people gen Pokemon. It's mostly used for competitive use. And it was made accessible to everyone in Generation 6, which is also when shiny hunting was reaching its peak. But that doesn't change the fact that, of course, genning will to some degree have an effect on my overall view of shiny Pokemon's rarity, when people are popping them out in 2 seconds using Twitch bots or through PK Hex. But I don't see it as the main offender, personally. At one point, they were super rare Pokemon you'd often have to spend hours, days, sometimes even weeks to get your hands on. And in today's world, they feel like nothing more than cosmetics you get from simply playing the game. And by simply playing the game, I am referring to the biggest reason why my constantly increasing lack of care comes from. Pokemon Go. Shiny Pokemon in Pokemon Go seems to be different depending on the Pokemon, but the base odds for the majority seems to be 1 in 512, which is the same as Masuda method in the main series games. There is a website called shinyrates.com, which I'll admit, I don't know exactly how this works, but it seems to base the shiny odds based on a certain number of encounters, such as of recording this video, Chansey has a 1 in 65 shiny odds, Sneasel has a 1 in 45, but I can't really confirm if this is legitimate because I don't know too much about it, and let me know in the comments if you know more about this. So let's stick to the base 1 in 512 odds, which isn't necessarily the problem for me, but as an example, I hate the idea of Community Day. 3 hours of the same Pokemon spawning non-stop with a 1 in 25 odds is absolutely ridiculous to me. But I can see why people enjoy it and how it might be more of a social thing you do with friends, I wouldn't know. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that way. And it's the same thing with the legendary raids having a 1 in 20 shiny odds. I've also heard some people say it's 1 in 25, but Bulbapedia says 20. I had a girlfriend a few years ago, I know, it's hard to believe, I know. She was into Pokemon Go and we did a Rayquaza raid with her and some friends. And I got myself a shiny Rayquaza. Was I hyped up? Did I go completely Smeagol mode? No. I was angry. Because it should never be this easy. Legendary raids are even worse in my opinion. Not only because of the ridiculous rates in which people find shiny legendaries, but also the fact that it's paid to win through the use of items such as remote raid passes. The insane rate in which you can get shiny Pokemon in Pokemon Go has completely ruined shiny Pokemon for me. And I'm not saying that the mainline games are completely innocent either. A good example of this is the Zeraora event for Pokemon Sword and Shield, where if the players could defeat 1 million Zeraora raids, everyone gets a shiny Zeraora. Why? Why do we have to give out a shiny mythical Pokemon like it's nothing? Why not have it be received by an NPC in-game and have it be a regular Zeraora and don't shiny lock it so people can actually hunt for it and put in the work? And just look at the majority of legendary Pokemon between Generation 8 and 9. Zacian, Samacenta, Urshifu, Eternatus, Calyrex, Glastrier, Spectrier, Galarian Birds, Miraidon, Koraidon, Ogerpon, Terrapagos, Ruined Pokemon. Even these 3 bastards are shiny locked. They're all shiny locked for now until they can be released in raids in Pokemon Go and be handed out like Halloween candy. One of the first questions that I got when I first started talking about this was, well, why not just quit playing Pokemon Go? And I understand how this might feel like a real gotcha moment, which is what most arguments and debates online ultimately boils down to these days. But it really isn't, because regardless of if me or anyone else plays Pokemon Go, it's completely irrelevant to my point, and here's why. Sure, I can completely remove myself from anything Pokemon Go, but these Pokemon can still be very easily transferred into Pokemon Home, and those Pokemon can be very easily transferred into the newer generation of Pokemon games. I could very easily sit here and say that it's all Niantic's fault, but the truth is, Pokemon are the ones enabling this to happen. And I just want to say that, yeah, Shundos are basically the new standard for shiny Pokemon. Another thing which I saw quite frequently when I asked you guys about shiny Pokemon is that it depends on which game you're playing, and I agree with that, but only to a certain point. Let's use Celebi as an example. If we don't count the 3 times Shiny Celebi has been given out as an event Pokemon, the only way I can think of to shiny hunt Celebi is through the Virtual Console on the 3DS. And let's say you put in the hours and actually do it. Amazing, you now have a shiny 1 in 8,192 Celebi. And then, everyone who paid $5 for the Whisper in the Woods research in Pokemon Go gets a shiny Celebi, just like that. Now, is one of these Celebis more rare than the other? That's a stupid question. Of course the Celebi with a 1 in 8,192 odds are more rare than a Celebi with 1 in 1 odds. But look at the big picture. Sure, you can say I had a shiny Celebi before everyone else had a shiny Celebi. It doesn't change the fact that everyone does in fact now have a shiny Celebi. The Celebi will only be viewed as super rare for the ones with the knowledge and care to acknowledge it as such. And if you're one of them, I respect that, I don't have a problem with that. My problem isn't the game, it isn't the methods, it's the overall view on shiny Pokemon. Something that used to be super rare, something you had to work for. Or maybe something you were lucky enough to find, maybe once or twice. But today, they are so widespread, they are so normalized. Shiny Pokemon doesn't have the same sparkle it once had. Damn, that's a good pun. It feels more like a skin, which is not only a shame, but it's shameful to say it. But regardless, that's my opinion, and I know that the majority are going to disagree. And I genuinely think that's a good thing. I hope you enjoy all the shinies the world has to offer. But with that being said, this video is for that low percentage of you guys out there. You're not alone, and I feel just like you do.